Action packed in 180 minutes. Power Breakfast with Tessa Dooms. Weekdays 6 to 9 a.m.
The time is 7:54. You're on Power Breakfast with Tessa Dooms this morning. Covering a number of different stories. We are still keeping our eyes out on that big story of the day, the three constables whose bodies were recovered from the Henops River. And there's definitely going to be a long-term investigation there. As Lebs pointed out, social media is a buzz. People are definitely interested in finding out what actually happened on that case. But we cover a number of different things this morning. And if you have your views, send us your voice notes and tell us what it is that you think needs to happen next in that case. In the 8 o'clock hour, we are going to be talking to the Department of Science and Technology. And we will make sure that we cover some of the ways in which South Africa can benefit from the G20 from a science and technology point of view. This morning, we were talking to our feel-good story, an app developer there, Tilly, saying to us that she went and learned coding all by herself. But I do think that we are on a science and technology curve in South Africa, that we should jump on the opportunity that we're leading the G20 and make sure we wring out the most out of that. But in this hour, we end up with a story around the city of Johannesburg now wanting to increase the electricity surcharge. Now, guys, this story gets me very hot under the collar because the price of electricity is going up, but the stability of electricity is not going up. In the city of Joburg, we just have way too many issues with electricity for more cost to be put at our feet. So we have with us Professor Vally Padayachee, a power and energy expert and former executive manager of Eskom, to talk to us today about the city of Joburg's decision to up the surcharge. Professor Padayachee, thank you so much for joining us this morning. What do you think of this 270 surcharge proposal?
Good morning, Tessa, to you and your listeners, and thank you very much for inviting me back to the show. Maybe you mentioned that you become, if I can distill your comments, hot under the collar, but maybe just to quell and keep it calm, I checked this out with City Power at the highest level, and these reports of the surcharge being increased is false. In fact, I'll just quote you what they're saying.
Right.
What they're saying is that these reports of City Power increasing the surcharge as part of the new tariff is devoid of any truth and seek to create panic on the eve of new tariffs kicking in. The total charge of 200 Rand will remain as is unchanged, and this will consist of the 70 Rand service charge and 130 Rand network capacity charge. And the final comment they make is our customers, meaning the City Power customers, should ignore these baseless media reports. Tessa.
That is an interesting comment, Professor Padayachee, and I say that because it was a few weeks ago when the Johannesburg Crisis Alliance was in conversation with the city, and this proposal of 270 did not come out of thin air. The city, the mayor, was talking about increasing it to 270. So somewhere along the line, they changed their minds. And now we're being gaslit into believing we made it all up.
Well, I can only quote you what is from official sources. But what they did say it was probably on the cards internally. But the official approval and what's going out, what the customers will be charged is the 200 Rand, as I've alluded to, Tessa.
Well, I'm definitely less hot under the collar now that I know that they've put into abeyance, but it definitely isn't something that came up or happened by itself. And I particularly think about the residents of Yeoville and Bellevue, who have a residents association there, because I was with them in a meeting last year with city officials where they, number one, asked for the scrapping of this tariff in its totality, and number two, had already then, I think it was about November last year, mentioned that they had heard that an increase was coming in the February-March cycle. So really, the activists of Johannesburg take a bow, because if the city has reneged on this 270, it has not come out of the goodness of their hearts. It's come from the pressure, like the activist, I know Reverend Tsepo there in Yeovil and Bellevue. He's now gone on a bit of a missionary trip. But he was one of those who was advocating really hard for the scrapping of this. But just before we close this off, even the 200 Rand as it stands right now is something that has been controversial for the people of Johannesburg. Any chances that you think that might be scrapped? Because really it is taking a toll on some people who are finding that they're still getting less electricity units than what they used to for those same amounts.
No, I'm glad you asked that question, and maybe just before we close up, just to give clarity and based on the different acts that are aware, that charge of 200 Rand, and I'm not talking too much about the quantum, but City Power, like any other electricity utilities, has the right to charge a tariff if it's approved by NERSA, the regulator, and that tariff, inter alia, is based on the need to recover, as I've alluded to, the maintenance charge for the networks and for the service charge, because like the postpaid customers, the prepaid customers also, when they get the electricity, because the networks have to be maintained and there's a service charge. So the need to charge a tariff is in law, but it has to be approved by NERSA. So it's not a charge that City Power, like any other electricity utility, would be putting on the table from a baseless situation, Tessa.
No, and definitely so. But I do think that the residents of Johannesburg have felt the strain, especially in a time where when we had no load shedding, we were still having load reduction. So I think it was worthwhile for the activists to raise their voice in this count. And I think if the city has backtracked on the 270, it has not come out of nowhere. I'm really, really grateful to hear that news.
In fact,
I have to...
Just on a final comment.
Yeah.
Just on a final comment to say that we welcome input from the residents, from the activists. I think this is the basis of our democracy.
100%.
This is what we fought for. So we welcome that, Tessa.
Thank you so much. That's Professor Vally Padayachee talking to us there about the energy issues that we are facing in our country, but also the City Power will not be instituting a 270 charge. Right after the news, we're going to be speaking to the Deputy Minister of Transport, Deputy Minister Hlengwa, about the Easter stats, but now for the news.